Are you looking for ways to improve your communication skills at work? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the number one thing that you need to know to be more effective at communicating, no matter what, whether that's at work or in your personal life. My name is Phil Ciccio, and I love the topic of communication because I was not a very good communicator. I've learned the concepts of communication. I've been able to literally travel around the world and teach people these concepts, help leaders, managers, and individuals of all walks of life become better at communicating. So let's get started. Look, the number one thing that you need to know is that labels drive our communication behavior. What do I mean by labels? You know that you have labeled every person that you know. You've labeled people as fun, as lazy, as productive, as annoying, as frustrating. We have labels for everybody. And those labels drive our communication behavior unconsciously. This is important. The key word is unconsciously. Our labels drive our communication behavior and our behavior in general unconsciously. So think about this for a moment. You have a label for somebody, right? When you see that person, your brain is triggered with that label, right? It says, okay, this person is fun. What that does is it sends a message to your brain, right? To activate a few chemicals, release some chemicals in your brain and your body, and then you activate the body, you take action or you behave based on that label, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And so it happens unconsciously. As a matter of fact, if I was to video record you, okay, for a few days, and we played back that video recording as you're interacting with other human beings, you would be shocked at some of the things that you do that you don't even realize you're doing through this body, okay? And you'll also be surprised. I'm sure you do some really good things as well. But more often than not, you'll find yourself doing something in a meeting or on a call or something like that that you did not know you did. And the reason why that happened is because of the label. So when we talk about communicating with other people, most of our communication happens through the body. It doesn't happen with our words. It's happening through this body. What is this body telling you? 55% of our communication processing is through the body. Only 7% is with our words. This is important to understand. So our words only really are processing 7% of the communication as a whole, right? The rest of it's through body and tonality. So let me give you an example of what I mean by a label. Let's just say that you are in a meeting and you're just listening to, the people talking or whoever's speaking at the moment. And I just want you to imagine for a moment that there's somebody in the meeting that you have labeled as annoying. Okay, that's their label. Now, they're just sitting there in the meeting, maybe over in the corner, and you're listening to somebody else speak. Maybe you're the manager, maybe you're speaking. And suddenly, annoying person says, hey, I have a question. What immediately happens to this body unconsciously as soon as you hear that person's voice and they say that they have a question? Now, they haven't said anything that's annoying. They just said, hey, I have a question or I have a comment. Your body will suddenly just go, oh, here we go, right? You know that this is happening, right? You're like, oh man, here we go. Annoying person is about to annoy me, right? Now think about this for a moment. They didn't do anything to annoy you, but the label that you have for them has triggered you to behave in such a way that obviously you're communicating to everybody around you, this body, that you're annoyed, and the person didn't do anything that was annoying. So you can see how our labels can drive our behavior and cause us to communicate ineffectively. Now let's just say you're in that meeting and somebody in there that you have a label for, really positive and hardworking, is in the meeting as well. And so you're sitting there and you're speaking or listening to somebody else speak, and suddenly that other person with the label that's positive and a hard worker says, hey, I have a question or a comment. What does your body do now? I'm sure it doesn't do what it did with the other person where you went, oh my word, and you rolled your eyes, right? I'm sure it didn't do that. It probably leaned in and said, oh, sure, right? Now, both of those scenarios are identical. They're exactly the same. Both of those people just said that they had a question or a comment, but the way that you communicated out to the world was completely different based on those two labels. One got this person and the other person got that person. Think about that right now. So when it comes to communicating effectively and being really great at communicating with other people, you have to understand that you're communicating through your body more often than not. And of course, the majority of our communication is through the body. What is this body telling people about you? Especially if you're in a leadership role, right? You're in a leadership role and you're working and you're typing at your computer and somebody comes into your workspace. Let's say it's Mr. Annoying or Mr. Frustrating. And suddenly you look up and you see them and all of a sudden you do that because you're annoyed by them. They haven't done anything. They just showed up, right? But all of a sudden you roll your eyes. What are you communicating to that person about them? They're immediately going to see that you're annoyed by them. And that action, right, is going to cause an equal and opposite reaction. They're going to be annoyed by you because you're annoyed by them. And you can see that you're communicating through your body based on a label. And the person who showed up at your office, they weren't being annoying, they just showed up, right? It's the same thing if somebody positive showed up, yeah, you'd be like, hello, how are you? And you get up and you shake their hand. The scenarios are the same, but your communication is different based on these two labels. So we have to make sure that we're altering the label, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let me give you another example here. So let's just say that the annoying person asks you a question. They come in and they say to you, hey, I have a question for you. And they've asked you this question 3 or 4 times already. This is the 4th or 5th time that they're asking you the question. You've already given the answer. How do you respond to that based on your label that they're annoying? You're probably annoyed. You're like, hey, I've already answered this question a whole bunch of times for you, right? And you're so frustrated by it. Now, let's just think of the person who's really positive in your life that you really care about and you really like, and they're a hard worker or whatever it is. And they come to you with a question, and they've asked you this question 3 or 4 times. How do you respond to that person? You might tongue-in-cheek say, hey, I've already answered that question a couple of times, but you'll do it with a smile. Or you might just answer the question. See, both of those scenarios are the same, but based on the label, one person got the negative you and the other person got the positive you. Why wouldn't you want to be the best version of you regardless of the label? Right? I want to be the best version of me regardless of you, regardless of the people around me. I don't want the environment or people around me to determine how I'm going to show up. I want to be the best version of Phil. And the only way that I can do that is to make sure that I don't allow negative labels to cause me to be triggered and then behave based on that label. So how do we fix this? Okay. We have to alter the label. We have to change the label that we have for people. Now, you have that frustrating person. What could be a positive label for that person? I know you're saying right now there's nothing positive about that person, but there has to be, because there's a law called the law of opposites. There can't be a hot without a cold or an up without a down or a left without a right, so there can't be a negative without a positive. So your goal should be to find a positive label for that annoying person. Maybe they're annoying, but maybe they're really a kind person. Maybe they're annoying, but they're a good parent. Maybe they're annoying, but they're really smart. And you need to alter your label so that when you see them, the positive label becomes the trigger. And guess what? Now you unconsciously behave based on a positive label. See, it's not that hard to do, okay, right? It's going to take some effort and some thought. But if you do this consistently with all the people that you communicate with, I promise you, you'll show up as a better version of yourself. You'll communicate through this body in a much more positive way, and your relationships will be much stronger. Look, if you enjoyed this video, I want to share with you a really great training on effective communication. It's a webinar I conducted. It's an hour long, gets really deep into this topic of labels and understanding it, and a whole bunch of other things that are involved in communication. If you'd like it, it's free. In the description here, there's a link. Just click on the link. It'll take you to a web page, and you can watch that webinar on effective communication for apps for free, okay? Enjoy it. And if you like this video, click the like button. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so by subscribing. And if you know somebody who could benefit from this video, hey, feel free to share it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks for watching.